Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping straight into a pretty bold idea, achieving goals way beyond what you might think is possible.
Yeah, we're looking at Grant Cardone's The 10X Rule.
Exactly. You shared some fascinating bits from the book with us. It seems like you're really exploring these strategies for, well, not just meeting goals, but completely smashing them.
That's right, moving beyond just hitting the target to, achieving something much bigger.
What really caught my eye is how Cardone insists it's not about like natural talent or luck. He calls it a discipline, a specific way you approach things.
Right, a whole mindset shift.
So our mission today is to really unpack that. What are these core principles? How does he suggest we change our thinking, our actions? And can this really apply to, well, anything?
Okay, let's get into it. The core idea of the 10X Rule, it really has two main parts.
Okay.
First, he says, whatever goal you have, you're probably underestimating the effort needed, like by a factor of 10.
10 times the effort, you think?
Yeah. And the second part. Your goals themselves should be 10 times bigger than what you'd normally aim for, even 10 times bigger than your ambitious goals.
So think bigger goals and anticipate way more effort.
Exactly. It's about recalibrating everything from the start.
And that ties into his concept of massive action, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. He's not saying just, work a bit harder. He's talking about taking 10 times the action that seems reasonable.
Like an almost unreasonable amount of action.
Pretty much. He uses himself as an example, right? Early in his sales career. For every one presentation someone else did, he did 10. When he got into real estate, he didn't just look at a few places.
10 times more.
10 times more properties, making tons of offers. He's adamant that the sheer volume, that was the single biggest factor in his success back then.
Even when he didn't have the, perfect business plan or connection.
Exactly. Even without all that figured out, which leads to his point about underestimating effort.
Right, because if you think it'll be easy,
you're setting yourselves up. He saw it constantly in his consulting, building a house, raising funds, even finding a partner. It always took more than people planned for.
And when it gets harder than expected, that's when people get discouraged.
Totally. Disappointed, They lose steam, maybe they quit.
And he points out that common mistake, right?
Yeah.
Instead of doing more, people often just lower the goal.
Yes. And he's really strong on this, don't lower the target. That's the worst thing you can do.
So what's the alternative? Just push harder.
His advice is multiply everything in your projection by 10 from the start. Time, money, effort, people needed.
So you're building in a massive buffer for the unexpected stuff that always comes up.
Precisely. Be prepared for it to take 10 times more.
Okay, so huge goals, massive effort. Why does he think achieving success at this level is so important?
He sees success as absolutely vital, not just nice, but essential for you, your family, even society.
Vital how?
It brings confidence, security, the ability to actually contribute, to help others.
Yeah.
He talks about having these two wake-up calls in his own life.
Oh, yeah.
Once when he was 25, feeling lost, his survival was threatened by a lack of focus.
Oh.
And then again, around 50, during an economic downturn, realizing his business wasn't, dominant enough to handle it easily.
So those experiences convinced him success isn't just an option, it's a must.
An absolute must. He compares the commitment needed to how, good parents feel about their kids. It's non-negotiable. You just do what needs to be done.
That level of commitment.
And that ties directly into taking responsibility, total responsibility.
For everything, even stuff that seems outside your control.
That's his argument. Take ownership of everything that happens to you. He uses that power outage story.
Right, instead of blaming the power company.
He realized, hey, I didn't have a backup generator. That was his responsibility. And thinking that way led straight to the solution. Get a generator.
So blaming others just keeps you stuck, being a victim.
Exactly. Taking responsibility, even if it feels unfair, is what empowers you to find solutions and prevent it from happening again.
Makes sense. He then breaks down action into 4 levels.
Yeah, the 4 degrees of action. First is doing nothing.
Which sounds passive, but he says it actually takes energy.
Yeah, energy to, justify the inaction, stay bored or complacent.
Okay, what's level 2?
Retreating. This is taking action, but, in reverse. Pulling back because you're scared of bad outcomes.
Like saying, oh, the stock market's too risky, or relationships usually fail anyway.
Precisely. Fear-based withdrawal. Still an action, but a negative one.
Then number 3.
Normal levels of action. This is where most people operate.
And he thinks this is dangerous. Why?
Because it gets you average results, at best. And average leaves you super vulnerable when things change, market shifts, new competitors. You get wiped out.
Right. Stuck in the middle.
Yeah. And that leads to the 4th degree. Massive action. The 10x level?
This is the unreasonable level of activity we talked about.
Totally. Doing so much that other people notice. Time isn't the main constraint anymore. He argues that for anything new, the biggest problem is usually just being unknown, obscurity.
And only massive action breaks through that.
That's the idea. You have to make noise, get seen.
Okay, which brings us to his view on competition, which is pretty blunt.
Yeah. Competition is for sissies. He's not interested in just competing.
He wants to dominate.
Dominate the sector.
Oh.
He gives his own example, creating information-assisted selling.
Nah.
It was a totally different approach, so it kind of sidestepped the existing competition. He also points to companies like Apple.
They don't just compete, they often define the whole market.
Exactly. And how do you dominate? Often by doing the things others won't.
Like that dental implant company example.
Right. Their competitor cut travel, so they doubled down on personal visits and grabbed market share.
The goal is basically to become the name everyone thinks of for that thing.
Yeah, like Xerox was for copies or Kleenex for tissues. He wants Grant Cardone to mean sales training.
Got it. So next, he talks about escaping the middle-class mentality. What does he mean by that? It's not just income, is it?
No, not just income. It's more a mindset of like, just enough. Settling for average for getting by.
He mentions those income stats, like $35K to $50.
Yeah, and points out how hard it is to feel truly secure on that, especially in big cities. He tells that story about the client needing $10,000.
And he told him to aim for $100,000.
Yep. Aim for 100 carry and work Sunday to get started. It's about breaking that self-imposed limit of just enough.
Seeing middle class as a mindset trap, not just a dollar figure.
Right. And he contrasts it with the reality that, a small percentage controls immense wealth, suggesting abundance is possible if you aim for it.
Which probably requires being pretty obsessed.
Yeah.
Right. And going all in.
Absolutely. He says you need to be obsessed with your goals. It becomes this driving force.
And not be afraid to commit fully.
Yeah. Challenge that societal pressure to play it safe.
Yeah.
He says the giants are the ones willing to make the big bets. Forget limits on energy or creativity.
Just overcommit everything.
Overcommit energy, resources, creativity, persistence, and see new problems as a good sign.
A sign you're moving forward, not stuck with the same old issues.
Exactly. Progress means new challenges.
He also has that counterintuitive idea about expanding when times are tough.
Oh, yeah. Especially during recessions, when everyone else cuts back.
He did the opposite.
Increased his advertising, his marketing during the 2008 crash. While competitors were contracting, he expanded.
And grabbed market share because of it.
It's about seeing downturns as opportunities, not just threats.
And even when you do succeed, you can't let up. What's that phrase he uses?
Burn the place down, keep feeding the fire. Success needs constant attention. Massive action doesn't stop.
No resting on your laurels.
Not if you want to maintain 10x levels.
Okay, let's talk about fear. Most people see fear as a signal to stop.
He sees it completely differently. Fear means you're pushing boundaries, moving in the right direction.
So if you're not feeling scared, you're probably playing it too safe.
That's his take. You're staying in your comfort zone.
And when should you act on something you fear?
Immediately. Right now. The time is always now. Don't wait.
He lists all those common excuses, doesn't he? Waiting for the right time, more info, whatever.
Yeah, but the fear and the need to act, they don't go away just because you make excuses.
So confront it head on. What about time management? We all feel like we don't have enough time.
He reframes it. It's not about managing time. It's about controlling it by setting priorities.
Deciding what's truly important and making time for that.
Right. He suggests actually logging your time for a few days. See where it's really going.
Find the leaks, maybe too much TV, aimless web surfing.
Exactly. Then you can consciously redirect that time. He gives that personal example about his daughter.
Adding an hour to his day for her. How?
By adjusting his and his wife's schedules.
Yeah.
Shifting things around because spending that time with his newborn was the priority. He controlled his time to make it happen.
That's powerful. Taking control instead of feeling like a victim of the clock.
Now, here's an interesting one. Criticism.
Ah, yes. Nobody likes being criticized.
But Cardone says it's a surefire sign. You're doing something significant. You're getting attention.
So if you're taking massive action, criticism is basically inevitable.
Pretty much. People who aren't doing much themselves often criticize those who are. It makes them feel better, maybe?
He says it often comes disguised as advice.
Yeah, advice designed to make them feel more comfortable with your level of action, maybe pull you back to normal.
And the best response.
Keep succeeding. Let the results speak for themselves.
Okay, now this next one might ruffle some feathers. Customer satisfaction, not the main goal.
Not the primary initial goal, according to him. The first and most critical goal is customer acquisition.
So getting new customers is more important than keeping current ones happy at first.
His argument is that focusing too much on satisfying current customers can make you neglect the aggressive action needed to grow to get new people in the door.
Because businesses fail more often from lack of customers than bad products.
That's his observation. Many fail because they just don't acquire enough customers. The order should be acquire, then get referrals, build loyalty, then acquire more.
He uses Apple again here, right?
Yeah, they focus massively on creating desirable products that acquire customers alongside building loyalty. Acquisition comes first.
Okay, that leads into omnipresence, being everywhere.
Yeah, aiming to be everywhere all the time with your brand, your ideas, your service.
Why is that important?
Think about things you value often. They seem readily available, widely known. He says you want your name or brand to be instantly recognized in your field.
Like the news cycle, it's always there, always top of mind.
Exactly. Get attention first. A great product nobody knows about isn't going to fly.
He pushes back on just wanting to help one person, right?
Yeah, he argues for aiming for a much bigger impact, which requires visibility. He even shares how he dealt with a negative attack online.
By becoming more visible.
By doubling down on becoming omnipresent, writing books, doing more media, making sure his name and message were everywhere.
Wow. Okay, and woven through all of this is that constant theme, no excuses.
Absolutely fundamental. Take responsibility. Own your results. Don't blame circumstances or other people. Excuses are the enemy of success in his view.
Reframe them into actions. If X is stopping you, figure out how to overcome X.
That's the mindset.
He also talks about needing to take risks, maybe even being a bit dangerous.
Yeah, you can't achieve 10x results by playing it super safe. Think casinos, you gotta risk big to win big.
Being too careful can be as bad as being reckless.
In a way, yes, massive action inherently involves risk, stepping out there. But he also says become trained, become skilled, so you can handle bigger risks safely.
Prepare yourself to be dangerous effectively.
Right. It's calculated, prepared risk-taking, maybe.
And then there's the shift from just earning income to actively creating wealth.
Huge mindset shift. Don't just think about your salary or saving pennies. Think about how wealth is generated through ideas, products, services that provide value.
Money flows to creators.
Exactly. He looks at how banks or real estate investors create wealth, not just earn income. And wealth, like assets, isn't taxed the same way income is. Focus on building assets.
Okay, and link that to being interested in results.
Yeah, successful people, he says, are fixated on results, not just effort, not just hours worked, but actual outcomes.
Don't pat yourself on the back for trying. Celebrate the wins.
Be unreasonably fixated on getting the result. Hold yourself accountable until it happens.
What about this idea? Commit first, figure out later. Sounds risky?
It can be, but he argues it's key. Smaller, faster movers can outdo big, slow ones because they commit and then adapt.
So commitment unlocks the creativity needed to solve the problem.
Often, yes. You commit fully, then you have to find a way. Passionate commitment can beat just being the smartest person in the room.
Jump in, basically.
And figure it out as you go.
He also touches on the success of the group, right? Your team, your associates.
Definitely. Your success is tied to theirs. Investing in your people, helping them improve, it's not just nice, it's smart. It benefits you directly.
It's self-serving in a good way.
Exactly. A rising tide lifts all boats.
And finally, that idea of reaching up in relationships.
Yeah, deliberately connect with people who are ahead of you, more successful, more connected, more knowledgeable.
Why?
Because they pull you up. You learn more, see bigger possibilities. Avoid spending all your time with people at or below your level.
Like black belts learning from other black belts, not white belts.
Or golfers improving by playing with better golfers. Surround yourself with people who challenge you to grow.
You know, hearing all this, that story you mentioned earlier about him trying to get on TV really clicks.
Yeah, the persistence is incredible, isn't it?
Making endless calls, getting rejected, hiring PR firms, doing tiny interviews on unrelated topics, all during a recession.
He just kept taking massive action, committed to the goal of getting his message out, even when it looked impossible.
And eventually, that relentless 10x effort broke through.
That really sums up the whole philosophy, doesn't it? It's a completely different operating system. Huge goals, massive sustained action.
Leading to results that seem extraordinary from a normal perspective.
Exactly.
So for everyone listening, the big takeaway here seems to be that the 10x rule offers this, well, intense, but potentially powerful way to rethink your ambitions and how you pursue them in any part of your life.
Right. And since you're interested in getting knowledge quickly but also deeply, hopefully this deep dive gave you some of those aha moments, some things to really think about.
Absolutely. So here's that final thought to chew on. Look at your goals right now. Look at the effort you're putting in. Is it normal? Is it comfortable?
Or are you ready to consider multiplying both by 10?
What could actually happen if you dared to apply this 10x thinking? What new doors might open?
It's definitely something to consider. Maybe dig into the book itself, see how it resonates with other things you've learned.
Mhm.
And yeah, we'd love to hear what you think. Any questions this brought up for you?